Yeah, my name's Kevin de Graag. I've been working 27 years as a London taxi driver and about 18 years with radio taxis. Yeah, when you become a London taxi driver, you have to apply to the carriage office, public carriage office, to do the knowledge. And you basically have to learn every street, every road, hotel, airport, stations, and the quickest way A to B, and the shortest possible way in a straight line. And they say every 20 people who apply to be a taxi driver, only 2 go through.
My name is John Hurley. I've been on radio taxis for 25 years, ever since I've been a cab driver. The knowledge is unique to London. London is such an enormous, complicated city that you couldn't just say to someone, here's the keys to a cab, go and drive a cab, because quite frankly, you'll get lost. London, I've been told, covers approximately 800 square miles. It's certainly the biggest city in Europe. It's certainly one of the biggest cities in the world. You basically have to learn the city like the back of your hand, because our business is business people who haven't got a great deal of time. If they say to you, driver, take me to Portsoken Street, please, driver, you've got to know where Portsoken Street is, and you've got to get there as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And I think only a London cab driver could do it, because it took me, and I'm a Londoner, 3 years of constant study. It definitely is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. The failure rate when I was doing it was 85%, which is almost impossible. In fact, I got halfway through it and thought, I can't do this. The amount of knowledge you have to amass is mind-boggling, really.
What you do, you get his book, it's called a blue book, what you have to study, and a blue book used to have 24 pages, and it's 1 to 24 on each page. And these are all the guidelines you have to learn. The London taxi driver's brain, a part of it, is 30% bigger, and that's the amount of knowledge you have to hold in your head. It's unbelievable.
My name's Colin Gibson, and I've been on radio taxis for, I think, about 27 years. My blue book was red. They call it the blue book, but it's never been blue. And it's got, I think, it's 468 journeys from, the most famous is the first one, which is Manor House Station to Gibson Square. And being as my name's Gibson, that's always the one I remember. If you make up your mind to do something, then you're going to do it. And that was the situation I was in. You know, I was in a job that I disliked, and I wanted to do something else. And as I say, once I decided to do it, it was purely a matter of how long it was going to take. It wasn't whether I finished it or not. It was just get it done and do it. When you get to a point where they think you're good enough to be a cab driver, eventually you get your badge, and that's your badge. That's my licence. That says I'm a cab driver.
I was on South Kensington Rank once when 2 guys come running up with, to all intents and purposes, a dead child in their arms. She was about 2.5 years old, her eyes were open, her mouth was open, and the guy said, for Christ's sake, get us to Westminster Children's Hospital quick. Now that's when the knowledge is important. You have to know where Westminster Children's Hospital is, and you've got to get there as quickly as possible. This was at 5 o'clock at night. The traffic lights are against me. I went through the red traffic lights with the horn blasting, the headlamps going. I was on the wrong side of the road. Everyone was getting out of the way for me. But we made it to the hospital. The guy went running into the hospital with the child. And the other fella said, look, that's my sister's child. Whatever happens, I've got to go back and see my sister, tell her what's happening. Please wait. So I waited about 15, 20 minutes. The guy came out and said, we cannot thank you enough. He said, you just saved our little girl, according to the doctor. 5 minutes later, it would have been too late. So I don't know, that made my day, that made my year.
I think there is something of the confessional about the back of a taxi. It is not being a religious person and never having been to confession. It's what I imagine it's like to sit in a confessional and pour out your heart. So sometimes people do that. Sometimes it can be just, mind-blowing. Some of the things that people come out with,
People tell cab drivers things I'm sure they never tell anybody else in their life, because they know they're never going to see you again and they can let it all out. So it's a really, really interesting job, I tell you. I wouldn't have done anything else, really. I feel very fortunate to become, I mean, London is a world-class city, really. If anything happens, it happens in London.
Radio taxis have been very good to me. 6 years ago, no fault of radio taxis, but I had to have a triple bypass. And when you're a triple bypass, you can't drive a taxi for 3 months. And being self-employed, it's very hard. And you've got no money coming in, and you still got to pay your bills. And I explained this to radio taxis, and they said, see what we can do. And I got a phone call from one of the managers, and they arranged me to be a taxi marshal at Canary Wharf. So yeah, they helped me a lot. I've got a lot to be grateful for radio taxis.
For charity, somebody came up with the idea of getting anyone famous that you picked up in a taxi and getting them to sign a £1 note. So one day I picked up a guy who's a multi-millionaire, former politician and writer, and I said to him, I explained what was happening. I said, this is all for charity. I said, we're getting famous people to sign a £1 note. I said, have you done it? He said, no, I haven't. I said, would you do it? He said, as long as it's your £1 note. And I just thought, of all the things he could have said, when I'd said, this is all going to charity, would you mind signing a £1 note? For a bloke who's got as much money as he had at the time, I think he still has, as long as it's your £1 note, which I was quite willing to do, you know, but it's just the way he came out with it. It's always made me think he was a bit of a, well, no, I won't say anything else.
I have 2 charities really that I'm very fond of. One, next month I take old soldiers. I take them every year to the seaside, but next month we're going to Arnhem, which is a place in Holland, which is very important for old soldiers because it was such a distinctive battle. They lost the battle. Of 10,000 men that went into Arnhem, only 2,000 came out, and we're taking the guys that were actually there back to Arnhem. But one of the nicest charities I do are the company of Hackney Carriage Drivers, the Magical Taxi Tour, and we take children with life-threatening illnesses to Disneyland Paris every year. Yeah, they gave me a little badge when I've been doing it for 15 years, but this will be my 20th year. I thought last year may be my last year, but I'm going to continue doing it.
After 27 years with radio taxis, I think it's sort of I won't say part of my DNA, but it's the right place to be.
I enjoy it. I love the freedom. Meeting different people, never work in the same place. It's great.
It's an adventure every day. You never know who you're going to pick up. Some days are better than others, obviously, but I've had some absolutely wonderful days. I've had some exciting days as well, whereby my heart's been in my mouth.